Tell me what happened.
There's 4 scientists all working on the same project, and 3 turned up dead.
Police, NSC, they're all covering it up.
Those are pretty big accusations.
And just before he died, he came to visit me. He looked terrible. I asked him what was wrong. He told me he deleted every file, every disk, shredded all his research. 10 years worth.
He didn't say why?
His job was top secret. I never knew exactly what he was working on.
None of this proves it was murder.
You need a reason. Same reason as Honduras in 54, Chile 67, Beirut 72. People need someone to shut up. They have an accident.
Spoken like someone who knows.
Such a helpless, useless piece of crap. Welcome to the Highlander Rewatch podcast, where each and every week, almost each and every week, we talk about another episode of the Highlander universe, or another facet of the Highlander universe.
That opening quote is actually just our new bio line.
Yeah, that was the thing I was planning on saying anyway, and then the show used it. I was like, wow, this show feels the way I do. Such a useless, helpless piece of crap.
Why are you plagiarizing the show, Keith?
I don't know.
And you know, I will just say, every time we do an episode, it is in fact a week. So every week we do it, we are talking about a different episode.
That is very true. Also, that line lost out to "I say we go duck hunting," quack quack, which is a line in this episode as well. There's a lot of good ones. Quack quack.
I'm not gonna lie, that's the one I thought you were gonna pick, because my notes say quack quack about 20 times. Just at various points, like someone signs off, quack quack
quack quack. That's right, quack quack. Right, that's what the Raven says. Quack quack
quack. Yeah, quoth the Raven.
Yep.
Quack quack.
Mm-hmm. A lot of birds in this show, right? More birds.
Yeah, it's a real bird theme.
Mm-hmm. All right,
it's like they were trying to develop something.
All right, well, how's the dog, the new dog, Kyle? I think last episode was the introduction to your own little Nick Wolf.
Yes, our beautiful girl Phoebe. She's the best. She's clearly going to be huge. Like, she's going to be a 55-pound dog, which I mean, she's the best and we're obsessed with her, but she's easily going to be twice the size that we thought. So that part's fun. She's actually supposed to get the last of her vaccines today. But for those
the COVID
of you,
booster shot you're talking about?
Yeah, the COVID booster shot, the third one for dogs.
Wow, all right.
For those of you in the Northeast area, we got like some insane winter warning today, and a vet asked us to call it off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because
I do know it's supposed to maybe snow this afternoon. I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
There's like, yeah, apparently it's already sleeting out in, west of the city.
Wow. How about this weather report from the Highlander Rewatch podcast on the
quack,
Philadelphia
quack.
area? Quack, quack.
Weather report as the duck flies.
That's right.
Anyway, she'll have to wait a little longer, but that's okay. She's doing just fine.
Sure. We hope she doesn't get any diseases in the meantime.
Yes. Well, specifically rabies. That will be the big one.
All right.
I was planning on bringing her to a raccoon fighting ring, but I might have to cancel that plan.
All right. Well, after the shots, safety first. All right.
Exactly.
Very good. So should we talk?
Good.
Should we talk about this episode?
Probably should.
See how we do. All right. So we'll see how long this takes to talk about too. Oh, God. Oh, want to guess how many pages of notes I have, Kyle?
Oh, too many. I'm gonna guess that you actually did pare it down this time and got it down to 5.
No, close. 8.
All right.
And the last week's was what? 14, I think.
Okay.
So
we're making steady progress here.
Jesus Lord. All right. All right. So how about we talk about the dates and deets and all that stuff on this episode, right? All right, here we go.
I'm in it for the deets. I don't know about the dates though.
Well, you're going to get them first. We get them out of the way. So we're going to be talking about season 1, episode 5 of Highlander the Raven. So shall ye reap, and so shall we roped.
I lost my mind when I realized that this was a farming pun. The title was literally about farming.
I double
lost
meaning,
my
right?
goddamn mind. So let's get into it.
We'll get there. Okay, so this episode was October 24th, 1998, almost a Halloween episode.
Almost.
The director was Renee
Zellweger?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name. It's a French last name, Bonery. I'm so sorry. This is his first of 2 Raven episodes. This person has a long TV history. They did Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The Twilight Zone, 1 episode of Forever Night, Kung Fu: The Legend Continues, 1997's Lassie TV reboot. We love that, right? La Femme Nikita.
We got
Tracker.
A lot of classics here.
Tracker with Adrian Paul, right? And most recently in 2004, Mutant X, which was created by like it's like a quasi Marvel show, and it turns out like it has nothing to do with the comic. I looked up the trailer. I was like, what the fuck is this Mutant X show? But I guess like around this time, Marvel had sold, like this is before Marvel Entertainment existed, right? Like as a movie making company or whatever. And so I guess Marvel had like licensed the rights to X-Men at this point to Fox, but then also was like, we want to make a TV show. And they tried to make this like Mutant X thing, and Fox sued the shit out of them. It was like, you can't do that. Like, we have the X-Men. And so they were allowed to proceed with the show as long as it had no fucking connection to like the X-Men at all. It's very strange. Anyway,
it's I mean, nothing like making an X-Men show with no X-Men.
Sure, right? And just have the word X in it. It just makes it sound like it's a real cheap ripoff, which I guess it was. It stars, I want to say, what's his name? John Shea is his last name. He's the guy who played Lex Luthor in the Lois and Clark TV show.
The one who they made the bold choice to not make bald.
He gets bald at some point. One of those seasons.
At some point, like season 3, he gets bald, I want to say.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but they had full head of hair with Lexi in that show. Anyway, I've also seen him pop up in like either weird Hallmark or like Christian movies, which I'm just like, wow, what's going on with this guy? I don't know. But
yes.
Anyway, he's like, I guess they're Professor X. I think he's the guy who assembles the stupid team of teenagers or whatever to fight crime in like a Matrix alley. Anyway, so the writer of this show, we got 2. It's Michael O'Mahony and Sasha Raines.
Oh, he's back.
That's right.
Wow.
The writing duo.
This team is back. This
is sadly their only episode of The Raven. They did 6 Highlander episodes before, which were Chivalry, Methuselah's Gift.
I think it's Methuselah.
Till Death, Dramatic License, The Stone of Skoon, and Justice.
There's some good ones in there.
Yeah, there are. And they're the ones who did a bunch of kids cartoons too, like Street Sharks, Double Dragon, Captain Planet, Inspector Gadget, all that stuff. So I got to say, like, when I saw that they wrote this episode, at first I was like, oh, cool. Like a funny episode with Amanda, because she's funny, right? Like,
she's funny.
And then I'm like, so shall ye reap? And I'm like, no way, this is a comedy.
Yeah.
That
real comedy title. Yeah.
Yikes. All right, let's talk about guest stars. We got Lawrence Dane as Chuck Johnson. This guy's been a lot of horror. The Bride of Chucky, Darkman 2, The Return of Durant, Scanners, Heavenly Bodies, which he wrote and directed. And that's about an aerobic studio, and also stars Walter George Anton. I don't know if you remember that name, Kyle. He's a lawyer in New York now, I think, still. But Walter George Anton is the star of Puma Man. He's the titular Puma Man.
He's the Pumaman?
He's the Pumaman. So if anyone hasn't seen the Pumaman, the Puma Man, watch this movie. It's fucking great.
One of the all-time greats.
And there's a great Mystery Science Theater 3000 on it. Also fantastic, but it stars Donald Pleasance. It's from the mid 70s, I want to say. And I think it's an Italian like superhero movie. And this guy, George Anton, plays a Peruvian, like it's so bananas, right? Like,
Yeah,
he's like an
I always
Aztec
think
god, but he's just some white guy in England. Like,
yes, but he grew up on the Andes Plateau because his parents were like archaeologists or something.
right.
I don't know. It's finding some way to give a white guy some other ethnicities superpowers. Like, I'm looking at you, Iron Fist. And anyway, worth it as the Mystery Science Theater, but amazing without it too.
It's
Holy
great.
Smokes.
The way he flies around, the power of rear projection, it's great.
What's the opposite of you'll believe a man can fly? You'll acknowledge the existence of gravity.
Yeah, right.
I guess that's what it is. But
yeah, pretty great. Also, I was very curious, like all these horror connections again, and like we know the sound design is like, I'm curious if anyone on the producing team or whoever, or even casting agency, has like ties to the horror world, because it seems like there's a lot of like influences creeping in here. I'm just curious why these worlds are merging in this way, or it's just byproduct of that it's filmed in Canada, maybe where some of these other things were filmed too.
that could be it.
So this also guest stars Chuck Shamata as Martin Foster. This guy was also in Scanner as he was uncredited.
It's a real Scanner reunion.
That's right. Also, Michael Ironsides is in that as well. So another Highlander connection. And I have a note that like I think the IMDb trivia on this episode is more interesting than the episode. But he also did some
All
Rin
right.
Tin Tin, Canine Cop. Our friend
I
Clay
thought you meant the
Boris
other
directed
one.
some of those. La Femme Nikita also, and the Beauty and the Beast reboot, which Gillian Horvath was, I think, involved in. So how about that, right?
Nice.
Frank Pellegrino as Hewitt. This guy was in that Adventure Inc. show, also produced by the guy who produces this show. Animorphs, Goosebumps, Monster Force, Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, and War of the Worlds, another AP show. And finally, this guest stars Catherine Brewer as Chase McAfee. Oh my God. This character appears again in this show, apparently.
She does. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, right. So she's in a ton and works all the time. She was in Port of Charles, Frasier, The Young and the Restless, Kim's Convenience, Bosch, which I've not seen, but I've heard pretty good things, and plenty more. So you ready for the IMDb description, Kyle?
Oh, I'm bracing for impact because this is such an insane one that I don't even know what it could be.
Yep. All right. An old friend of Amanda's asks her to investigate the allegedly accidental death of his son, a scientist who was working on a top secret project, and Amanda recruits Nick to help. I guess.
Okay.
It's a weird sentence. It was hard to read. Also, I'm an idiot and I have a hard time reading sentences.
No, that was an awkward sentence. I'm still processing.
Yeah, right. There's a lot of commas, and so-and-so asked so-and-so to help so-and-so. It's like, okay, you're trying to track all this stuff. But here we go. We're all useless pieces of crap watching this episode. So it opens at Holman University, right? At the Dewey
Holman Ross knew it.
at the Dewey Biological Research Center.
Which the sound just sounds like screeching cats in the background. Like, I don't know what they're doing.
Oh my God. Well, here, let's just we got to listen to this. I'll try to play some more clips again. We should mention this show is available on Tubi to watch. Our podcast is available on YouTube if you want to follow along these clips we play and all that stuff. I mean, my God, like just listen to the music. This is the music. This is like Prince wrote this. There's like screeching, like how cat meows and all this stuff. This is bananas.
It's the cat's meow, baby. The ow. Ow.
What the fuck? Anyway, whatever. That's the opening of this.
So we just saw at the very tail end of that the world's most ominous window washer.
Oh, I can't.
So
I have a clip to play about that guy. About that.
Yeah. We are about to just watch straight up 5 minutes of a guy just like very theatrically like choking to death or being poisoned while this window washer just glowers at him. Like,
it's so fucking weird.
It's such a strange series of choices. I'm like,
this
did they
cold
just not have
open
enough content?
Yeah, I don't understand this cold open at all. Like, I don't think it's necessary. It's a real strange one, right? Like, we don't see. Spoiler alert: that guy on the ladder, I guess, comes back later. I had to rewatch this. Like,
Yes.
to track that. Like that guy ends up in a car later. Like he's nefarious, but isn't doing anything here. Like this guy is a scientist at a university.
Yeah.
Let's talk about university dollars getting spent on whatever this project is. But like, what I don't understand, like, it doesn't make any sense. Apparently he's being contracted by the government to work on a project. We'll find out later, but like what? He's doing it at school? Like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't think.
Yeah, you're quite right. It does not.
And a sandwich is brought to this person, the scientist.
Yeah, like who is this guy that like there's like a woman who looks like a maid who's bringing him like a white bread sandwich and a glass and like a carton of milk. Like he went to like a third grade lunch counter and this is what he got. So anyway, bananas.
Yeah, totally. So he eats this sandwich, right? And like just starts choking and shit and just dies, right? And the person who delivers it like unplugs something from the wall. And I was like, what's going on? Like, turns out like they unplugged the phone so he can
so he can't call.
All right. After this all goes down.
And then they flash back to it while he's choking to death.
That was incredible. Incredible.
To him eating basically to him eating the poison sandwich again.
Yes.
It's like,
from seconds ago. Remember that.
Remember when that happened not but 5 seconds ago?
Unbelievable. And then so this is the way the cold open ends with the this window washer watching this guy die, and then he does this. And I was like, wait, what's happening in this show? Like nothing is planned out in this show. I feel so horrible. Okay, so this is how this cold open ends. Whatever this fucking window washers. This is incredible. He's dead. Amazing.
After he tried throwing a stool through like safety glass.
Where's he going? Where the fuck is that guy going with his whole bucket?
He's climbing up a ladder, but to do what?
To go nowhere. To go
like,
nowhere. I hate this. It's like no one knows what's happening in the show. It's like just put a shot in. It needs to just be there to fill the space, but it doesn't make any like sense at all. God damn it. Anyway.
So good. That's so good.
So we get our opening credits, and now we get Nick's apartment, right?
Yes.
And so what's Nick up to?
He's working the bag, baby.
Oh yeah, he's working the bag, right?
You know, he's I guess for like, oh, he trains, he's a fighter, he's like working a speed bag.
Right.
So then Amanda shows up and lets him know that she knows this guy Charlie who thinks that his son was murdered.
Right.
But like people won't follow up on it.
Yeah. And like Nick is like, well, what can I do to help? And it's like,
Great
I don't
question.
know. You were just involved in like an international espionage incident. And like, you apparently have like that motherfucker Bert at your disposal or something. Like, I mean, you could do something, I imagine, right? Like,
well, this is so clearly more applicable to what you do than your previous series of adventures.
Yes,
so
right.
Why not?
Yeah. Just
like,
solving a murder. Sounds okay. Right.
Yeah. I guess I was supposed to say, did he used to do homicides? I mean, he was chasing Amanda, which makes me think no.
Right.
But I don't know how the this PD is organized.
I also just want to point out, like, this is a new apartment for Nick from the pilot, which makes that happens often in shows like this. But what an apartment he has. It's decorated in the strangest way. And I really would love to just point this out. Again, this is in the video portion if you're watching on YouTube, but like, you see my mouse here? Like there is a poster of just a dude, like a shirtless dude with his like ab, like a black and white
glistening abs.
And he's like rapping. I'm like, how is your house decorated? Like what? So
like,
so
who is
interesting.
That for? And then just like the images on either side of that are nuts too.
Yeah, he's got this kind of like maybe mid-century painting here, and maybe another black and white. Like I can't.
And then like a black and white photo of like a boxer or something. Not quite as thirsty as that ab shot.
No, not at all. So anyway, now we go to this old folks' home. So Nick agrees to help, right? And so there's this dude, this old guy Charlie, right? He's there playing chess with the Reverend. I wasn't sure what that.
He appeared to be playing like a telechess or something like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like he's talking to somebody. Whatever. Anyway, so so Charlie asked Nick if he's good, And Nick says, I don't know. That depends. And I'm like, depends on what? What, like, the way people talk in this show doesn't make sense to me at all. Like, I don't understand those sentences. I don't know. Depends on what? What is he asking him? Also, it's revealed that Amanda told Charlie about Nick. Like, it's revealed in this dialogue. Nick is like, oh, this is, or Charlie's like, this is your friend you told me about. But then he's also questioning, like, are you good? And like, it's just like, what? Like, it seems like you know about this person. Amanda told you she was going to ask him to be brought in. And now he shows up and you're questioning like his legitimacy. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
He's bizarrely distrustful of him. Like, they made some decision that he needs to be distrustful of Nick for some reason. And it's just like, no one else will help you. And like, you're being an asshole to the one guy who shows up to help you. It's like a little odd.
Yeah.
But they clearly made the choice. Like, you don't like this, like your hackles are up about this guy.
Right.
So there we go, I guess.
I would also like to point out that in the background of this, there's a group of 4 older people playing like cards. And one of them has like aviator glasses on, like he's in Vegas, like at the World Series of Poker. It's like, dude, you're 80 playing like Parcheesi in an old folks home. Like, cool it.
He just had eye surgery, so he needs to keep those on.
And I do have this other question, which is, why is Charlie in this home? Why has Charlie been like forgotten about in an old folks home where no one cares about him anymore? Like, his son seems to live right close by. Where's his son's wife? Like, what has happened to this guy's like, I don't like, do you ever think that Charlie cannot take care of himself? Because I think that's another aspect of this script that's supposed to be there, is that like, we're not supposed to trust Charlie. I think there's supposed to be tension that like, Charlie's old. Can we believe him? Like, he's obsessed with this thing. But like, that's not present in this, I don't think. Like, I'm like, Charlie's playing chess. He's certainly like capable, unless he's playing with an imaginary person. Like, I have no idea why Charlie also is in a home like this. But
we just watched his son get murdered, so we know he's not crazy. Right? Like, we have information.
We, the audience, know. Right, you're right.
Know for a fact that this is not a wild goose chase because a maid in a window washer made him pantomime himself to death. So, like, we know he's fine.
Right. So there's like, the tension's taken out of it for us too. We should wonder as the audience, like, can we trust this guy? What is the real story? Is it somewhere, you know, what, but see, this is why none of this shit makes sense. They're just like weird puzzle pieces that don't go together, but like they look almost like a TV show at the end of the day, but they're not. This is art. Okay.
So, yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Though I will say, I guess one thing we are supposed to understand is that Charlie and his son were estranged for a long time, and then they reconciled. So maybe that was part of his coming to be in this old folks home.
That could be, right? Yeah, it's mentioned that like later in the episode that the federal agent mentions like, you weren't there for your kid or whatever, and I guess that's part of it. Also, here's a question: what do you think the timeline is? Like, cold open, we see someone murdered, and next scene basically is them being like, the police and FBI won't look into this. Do we think any time has gone by? Because that's another strange thing. I'm like, I almost feel like this just happened, or I'm not sure. Like,
yeah, I don't quite get it. Like, I'm surprised they've made any determinations about this yet.
Yeah,
because I just assumed it just happened.
Right.
Especially because all these other people, as we're going to come to find out, he was part of a team, and members of this team are geting taken out.
Right.
It's like
he was going to get married in 3 days. Like, I don't know. It's really odd. So this is the clip at the top of the show where Charlie explains like why he thinks all this happened, and he's like they blamed it on an accident, and like how? I mean, like, I guess, is everybody involved in this corruption? Like, he didn't choke on a sandwich. He swallowed the sandwich, right? Like, I mean, doesn't the autopsy reveal that the sandwich isn't like stuck in his fucking windpipe? Or I don't understand.
I would think so. Though, I guess, do they ever say how they believe the official quote unquote reason he died?
Yeah, it's that and when they reveal it, we'll get to it when they reveal it, because it's mind blowing. But yeah, it's he chokes on a sandwich. Oh my gosh. All right.
That's what an embarrassing way to go out.
Yeah, and they really don't give it a good reason why this isn't being investigated like further. It's just like people are dismissive, and it's like, okay. So I do want to play this clip because Charlie they play a newsreel, and this is fucking unbelievable. Like, it's the most like just generic sort of dialogue. Like, also like, hey, how about how weird and prescient a lot of the themes in this episode ended up being yikes. Fucking yikes, right? All right, so let's watch this newsreel, which may or may not have anything to do with current events, and neither did some of the themes of this episode. Yikes. All right, here we go. Charlie, this newsreel, man.
Counterintelligence. That was my life back when the battle lines were clear. The enemy was an evil empire. In the end, always justified the means. The chess game. That's all the spy business ever was. You sacrificed the pawn, lost a night or two.
Oh, there's the chess reference, huh?
Yeah. They were pieces. You did anything, whatever it took, but you didn't lose.
Okay.
I didn't lose. And then came the Prague Spring.
All right. So like unbelievable. Just like it's like Neil Breen dialogue. Again, if people don't know Neil Breen, watch Neil Breen movies.
Go do it.
They're the best, but it's like, it is just like, yeah, like it's so non-specific. It's lousy, I think. I also do want to point this out. So Amanda and Charlie are about to have a little like meeting at this party. And as you can see, I paused this frame here because we're about to cut to a flashback where's this flashback? Somewhere in, is it Prague, right?
It's Prague.
Yeah, August 20th, 1968. Anyway, so look at this establishing shot. Look familiar? Anybody? Watch. I'm like, watch. So again, this show must have been done so on the cheap. This is, let's open this up a little bit.
Oh God, is this the embassy?
Hey, look at this.
Is this the embassy?
You fucking know.
I even suspected it when I saw it, and I was like, surely not.
There it is. Okay, so again, if you're watching the video version of our podcast, on the left is a screenshot from the season 6 episode of Highlander. What's it called? Diplomatic Immunity. Where that guy dresses as a plumber and comes in. So anyway, you can see these are the exact same. They just reused the shot. Here's the gardener walking away here. Here's the gardener in his little straw hat. They use footage from this episode again later. Don't worry.
All right.
Anyway, but like just the budget is just so like cut on this. Like we can't even get an establishing shot done. Anyway, so I kind of like this flashback.
I kind of like it too. I mean, it's a very recent flashback in the scheme of things. It really just involves like having Charlie in the guy who plays Charlie in an ugly suit is like the main difference they need to make.
Right.
But I will say, odd side note, because when I think of the Cold War, I guess maybe it's just because I'm not a counterintelligence guy. I don't often think of it being as like an obvious, unmessy conflict that you always know who the good guys and bad guys
are.
Right? Like when you think about the Vietnam War, I don't think that's like the thing that comes to mind. Like, what a clean conflict where you always know the friend and your enemy. Like, side note, but Charlie feels that way. I guess that's fine.
Yeah, it is. It's a strange bit of writing again that like it's just not really true, and it's just a weird way to look at stuff, and it's just like I don't know. So they're there and they're toasting. They're at a party, like a garden party or something, where like they end up dancing like wildly in this garden where no one else is dancing.
Yeah,
they're dancing very dramatically.
There's like no one else there though.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
It's calling it a party. It's really just like there's 6 people.
Right. It's more like of a Mario as a party than a garden party. So they're there to toast to the new Czechoslovakia, and Charlie says history will judge the Russians very poorly if they invade. And my God, Jesus Lord.
Yes. So this is this is an interesting event that I wish they had explained more about. Just because
I just wish this whole episode was about Charlie and Amanda and stuff like, but
because that's a better episode.
Yeah,
that's a better thing to do.
Yeah.
Just because this is like a historical event that doesn't get a lot of play, nor does the flashback make any sense. Like this flashback does nothing really in
other
the context
than
of this episode.
This is when they met, right?
Yeah.
Which is strange because I think at the beginning of this flashback, I wasn't sure they were meeting for the first time here because Charlie's just so confident. He like clings their glasses together. He's like, oh, you're not having a good, I don't know. It's just like, oh, they must know each other already. And then we come back to this flashback later and it seems like, oh, they just met here. Oh, okay. Like, strange, right? Okay. So now we're back in the present, right? And like, there's no real information given to Nick here. It's just this, like, I don't know. after Nick does this, I don't think I have a clip of this. After Charlie gives him this, like tells him this story, Nick stares at him, gets up and leaves. Charlie waves his hands and goes, "Was it something I said?" And I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, just to be clear, this guy told Nick all this stuff and Nick doesn't say a word and just walks away. Like, what? Also, before this flashback even starts, they're both like, all three of them approach a bench. Charlie and Nick sit on the bench, and then Amanda just walks away. She just walks away. And it's like, they must have been like, well, she's not part of this dialogue. So, and there's no room on the bench. So she just, it's the strangest staging of things. Like, you can tell how like not planned stuff is, I think. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Characters just walk off screen when they're no longer required. It's baffling. Anyway. So there's the dude who was on the ladder before. He's in a car and there's all this talk. He's talking to somebody else on a walkie-talkie about like, my kid's soccer game. It's ridiculous. I'm like, who are these people? They're following, I guess they're spying on Charlie. Is that why they're here?
Yeah, I think so.
And they don't know who these new people are. Yikes.
But it's weird. Like, we would just had this insane thing where like these people are stone cold killers, and now they're like having like they're like yucking it up. They're like having like they're basically doing a bit about how their family's gonna kill them because they're out murdering instead of
it's
like,
a real
being
tonal
at home
shift,
with the
right?
family. Yeah, and I'm like, what is this? You gotta go do a murder.
Thing. I also thought it is sleeting here now or snowing or something. Wow, wild weather here in Philadelphia. So I also thought it was weird that like shit, what was I just gonna say? Fuck. Oh my god, fuck. These fucking goons.
Quack.
Whatever. Moving on. Also, I don't know. Nick like doesn't believe Charlie at all. Like, he's like, I don't know, man. And it's like, but why doesn't he believe him? Like, I need a good reason for him not to trust this. Like, because on its face, it does seem a little suspicious at least and should be looked into. And
and we don't know yet what project this guy was working on, but this guy, his son apparently went rogue and like destroyed 10 years worth of vital research.
Yes.
Though, as we will come to find out, he won't destroy the product of that research.
Right.
For some reason.
Sure. I mean, maybe I don't. Oh, the thing I was going to say that I remembered is like Nick calls out to Amanda. Like he asks her after this flashback, like, so you and Charlie, huh? Like implying like, oh, were you guys an item? And like, she's like, we danced. And he's like, oh, like danced together. And she's like, no, just danced. And I'm also then like, wait, what? Like, were you?
What is their relationship?
Like, what is there? Like, were you friends with him for years, or is this someone you met at a garden party once, and now you're coming back to solve their friend's murder? I wish there was just more to it, right? Like,
that was not the thing I was trying to figure out from that line was not whether they were friends for a long time. It was were they romantically linked or not.
I guess so, but I wish it's fine if they're not romantically linked, but I just feel like the way she describes the relationship is like, we just danced, but that's
needlessly
like,
confusing.
Yeah. And it's needlessly short too. It's like, they should have more of it. Like I was like, she doesn't know anything about his I mean, like, I think she should know more about Charlie. Just shouldn't she be part of his life or something like Lucy or again? And he lives in town. He lives around the corner, apparently at an old folks home. Like, you don't visit your friend, Amanda? You don't play chess with your friend? Like, I don't know.
She hates chess.
That's right. He could be like one of Duncan's weird, record producer friends that like, Duncan just always seemed to have new friends. It's like, oh, who's this person? I don't know, but like, it's very strange. Anyway, moving on, we cut back to Nick's apartment. Oh no, there's some good dialogue here about like, again, I wish there's more what the episode was about. When they're leaving the old folks home, he asks her like, what's it like to be immortal? And she does talk about like, oh, like, well, we can't have everything. Like, you watch people grow old and die. And like, she sees like maybe a couple walking with a baby. Like, there's all this stuff. I'm like, yeah. Like, this is what the episode's about, right? Like, how is this and Charlie getting old not the core, I think, of the episode? Like, where the emotional content comes from for all these characters. I don't know.
That's a fair point.
Yeah. I mean, hell, there could even be some confusion for Amanda. She knows this guy. He's a young whippersnapper spy, right? Like, maybe she's even like, Charlie's not the person he used to be, right? Like, that can be heartbreaking for her. I have no fucking clue. This episode's themes are trash. Anyway. Okay.
There are too many different ways it could go to have it make any sense.
Sure. All right. So we're back at Nick's apartment. Nick parks his truck on the sidewalk, like a fucking jackass. But they're going through all these police files and death reports and all this shit. I'm like, how did they get this stuff? Right? Like, again, why isn't Nick just a cop? Right? Like,
great question.
Right? Like, I mean, like,
why isn't he?
Yeah, I don't understand. There's more bird statues and all this stuff. But anyway, they get into the causes of death. So one of these scientists dies in a car accident, speeding, and his blood alcohol content was 3 times the legal limit. The other person, they say, was 70 pounds overweight and died of a heart attack. And then they're like, Charles' son choked on a ham and shrimp on rye. And I'm like, that's why he fucking died. They didn't even have to poison the fucking sandwich. The sandwich is a disgusting piece of shit. A ham and shrimp. I mean,
what does that mean?
I don't know.
Conceive of what that sandwich is.
And did that person make it for him? Like, does he order that every day?
Is he allergic to shrimp? Was that the problem?
I mean, well, then it would be that he was allergic to shrimp and he didn't choke on a sandwich. I mean, it's so bananas. Yeah. This is bananas, man. That would have been another ingredient to put on the sandwich, and it might be better. A ham, shrimp, and banana on rye. God damn it, disgusting. All right, this guy's a scientist too. I mean, he must, like, doesn't chemistry give him some clue that these ingredients shouldn't go together? I don't know.
Yeah, you'd think. Using my science, I've determined that shrimp is not for ham sandwiches.
Okay. So they want to interview Nick and Amanda want to interview the 4th member of, like, surviving member of this scientist team, right? Although here, I mean, the logic of this episode, I still think doesn't make sense. Like, they refer to it as a team, but how is it a team? If I thought that, like, the notion that the government is playing here is that these things are all disparate entities, so they can't be connected, right? Like, you work on this part of the project, you're going to work on this part of the project. When you all complete them, we're going to put them together and we're going to create this weapon, right? But, like, they wouldn't be aware that they're on a team. So it doesn't even make sense that Amanda and Nick are like, this is the 4th member of a team. Like, I don't think.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I guess they're like an inadvertent team.
Yeah, right. It's strange, right? But somehow they're able to connect this stuff. So they're gonna go interview him. So they go up to this guy's house, right? And there are these 2, like, I couldn't even tell if there was the buzz here, right? Like, there's more sound effects that, like, seem ominous, and I'm like, is that the buzz? No.
Nope.
There's just 2 gardeners.
No immortals in this episode.
2 gardeners. The way they're dressed too, like, the one guy is in, like, khaki pants, like, he looks like a business bro, I do not like this gardener.
I do not like this gardener man. I do not like him.
So Amanda and Nick show up, and classic TV trope where they drive all the way here, and while they're walking up to the front door, Amanda goes, well, what do you want to do when we get here? What's the plan? It's like, you didn't want to talk about that earlier, but yeah, I get it, right?
They had to observe a vow of silence while riding in the car.
Right. So they go inside. Nick pulls his gun, right? And, like, the gardeners are still, like, right there. I'm like, Nick is pulling his gun. Like, what's happening? Like,
why is he pulling his gun too, for that matter?
So they go inside. There's spoons all over the place, right? Like, on the floor. Why? It's like the house is like disheveled. And then they hear a gunshot, and out back is this fucking scientist it looks like he's shot himself in the head.
Yes, like, they just got here in time for this, like, fake suicide.
Right. Well, that's the thing that doesn't make sense. It's like, it's a fake suicide. So how did these people murder him? Because they're right there. Like, they see him right outside there. And, like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, and also, they were in his house rummaging through his spoons while he's outside working on his like, it's the strangest. Yeah,
like, this guy's home.
Right.
Like, how do they not find any evidence that he's home before he kills himself?
It's really strange.
I don't know. Yes, it's just an odd series of comings and goings.
I love, and when Amanda goes outside to, like, see him, like, after he's killed himself, like, her face is like, ew, like, it's so funny. I actually laughed out loud when she's like, ugh, and, like, she moved his, like, head and he falls on the ground. Oh my gosh. All right.
And this is where we get I say we go duck hunting, quack, quack, right?
Maybe. I don't remember. Maybe it is where they go duck hunting. I don't have that line written down here.
But
Also, like, they don't reveal, like, why would this guy kill himself while, like, he has a full glass of lemonade too, which is like,
yeah, you know, pours himself a glass of lemonade
and
for
then
the
kills himself, right?
side. Like, if you were a detective trying to figure that out, like, you'd be like, who is this guy? Like, why isn't it like a fifth of whiskey and a bottle of pills? Not like,
Yeah, right.
let me get some lemonade because I ran out of Ecto Cooler. Like,
yeah, and then they again
suicide.
make it like staged so that it's supposed to look like he killed himself, but like they hear the gunshot and go right out. Like, there's no way that would happen. Like, they would have had to stage the body, and they talk about like cleaning prints and like all these things. Like, none of this stuff can happen. It's so bizarre.
Like, a lot of that has to happen after he's dead,
right?
which also you wouldn't do in the middle of a day in a downtown, or not a downtown, like a crowded suburb.
Right.
Like, you wouldn't have that shot go off in the middle of the day and then just be able to do that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. So anyway, we cut now. The police have arrived at this house. So we meet this newscaster. Oh my gosh, what this new, it's like new Randy McFarlane. Like, remember that character that didn't really work in the Highlander the series? Let's try again.
They're like, let's phone in a version of that.
Yeah, this is even worse. Like, this character is just here so they can make a news report later.
Yes, 1,000%. That is all that they are here for.
Absolutely ridiculous. So there's this Fed there, and he's talking about how, Charlie's got these great, like, he knows Charlie. Like, I guess this guy's like been taught everything by Charlie, right? And he's like, this guy's got theories on the Kennedy assassination, and he's like, you should hear his theories on that LA rapper. And they're like, Tupac, and it's like, Charlie has theories on Tupac Shakur's death. What?
I hope so. He's just like, Snoop Dogg should have been able to stop it, man.
Oh my God.
That's all I'm saying.
Also, I'm like, right away, I'm like, are we suspicious of this guy? Yes, very quickly.
Yes,
I'm suspicious.
He's
like,
instantly an asshole, and then in the very next scene, he reveals himself to be the world's biggest shit.
Right. So, like, again, like this show, as you mentioned earlier, like, it keeps taking away the tension that we're supposed to feel. If this is a mystery, if this is a detective story with Nick, like, we know the guy's murdered in the beginning, so it's no question. And now we seem to know who the bad guy might be, and it will be confirmed so quickly that this is the bad guy.
Like, instantaneously.
Bad. Okay. So Nick thinks they killed this guy because they showed up, like, to investigate. So they were like, all right, they're offing him and just moving on, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't really make.
But why do they need to do that is the thing I don't understand. Like,
right.
They either need to kill everybody or not. Like, the fact that they're here doesn't seem like it should matter.
Yeah, maybe they're because they're trying to find out where these seeds are. Spoiler alert, there's seeds in this episode, guys. Secret seeds.
Secret seeds. Lest you forget that this is about reaping and sowing.
That's right. So in the next scene, this Fed goes and visits Charlie at the old folks home, right? And he's like, you're putting like family before national security, like implying that this is all about something bigger, right? And I'm like, I wrote down a note. I was like, I hope his son was working on phase 2, whatever fucking phase 2 was in that last episode, immunity or whatever. I was like, this should be it. This should be great. Sadly, it's not.
It's definitively not.
So this guy like threatens Charlie and says like, oh, if we look into your son, maybe there'll be some like illicit activities that like you wouldn't want, like implying that this guy like
maybe your son's a fucking traitor.
Which at this point I'm like, this guy's involved.
Like, he loved this country. Yeah.
I have a note that the mystery is now over at 22 minutes and 30 seconds into the episode, like completely over. Like I shouldn't say completely. We don't know what they were working on, which is
that is the one
giant,
missing ingredient,
an even bigger bombshell. But it's so ridiculous. He's like, what's that? I smell another tragic accident is how the like scene ends. It's like, Jesus Christ, you just admit like, okay.
And it's also so confusing who any of these people work for. Though like, they keep on using the tape. I think when using phrases like federal agent.
Yeah, they're just the feds, right? Like that's it.
Yeah. And they just like let that sit. It's like, who are they?
Yeah.
Does that mean that like in a minute they're gonna kill a cop?
Oh my God.
Because like, isn't that kind of what it means? Like you maybe shot like an FBI agent or something?
Yeah, right. All right, so we go to Quack. All right, we go to Amanda's apartment, and Charlie says he's the one who convinced his son to like go into the sciences. He's like, I didn't want him to like follow in my footsteps. Like he should do something good to help people, like be a scientist or a doctor. And they're in Amanda's like greenhouse area. No Lucy to be found. We find out Lucy is finishing her astronaut training or something. Like this is this the second episode, or maybe if this is the only, maybe this is she not in another episode? I feel like they just make a joke when Lucy's not around. Like unless I've just watched this episode 3 times to prepare for this.
I think it might be that.
And
I think she is in a lot of these episodes, even if only.
Yeah, but like I think I'm frustrated that they have like a joke response. It's like we don't know how to write her out of the episode, so just make a you know, a smarmy sort of joke or whatever, snarky joke, excuse me, and that'll just cover it, right? Like, and we won't actually have to explain why she's not here. But whatever.
True enough.
Also, I love that there's finally no immortal in this episode. I shouldn't say finally, but there's no immortal in this episode, and Lucy leaves town, which is what she should have been doing the last time when that guy was like rummaging through their apartment and was going to slaughter her. Okay. But there's this TV in the greenhouse, and I wrote down immediately. I was like, "What the fuck is the TV doing in the middle of all these plants in this beautiful sunroom or whatever?" It's like Chekhov's TV set. This is absolutely. When this comes back later, I was like, "They put a TV in here just so we could watch it later in this setting."
That's very good. Big if true.
Oh my god! And Nick sits on his chair sideways in the scene. I don't think I like that.
Nope, it's bad.
All right, so Charlie asks them not to get involved with any of this because he says it's dangerous. He's
now, I'm a crazy old man. Don't worry about it.
Right? Yeah, I started taking my meds again. Don't worry about this thing. And he ends with "sorry to be a bother," and then when he leaves, also Charlie is able to transport himself from the old folks' home to downtown Amanda's high-rise apartment all by himself. Like, again, I wonder, why does Charlie need to live in an assisted living facility? I don't want to make light of it or anything, but like, it's just a strange little thing, right? Like this idea that Charlie is crazy or something, right? He's feeble-minded or something, like met with like his actions in the show don't seem to indicate that, but whatever. Amanda's like, were you bothered? And Nick is like, no, I'm not bothered. And like, that is for them permission to keep investigating because Charlie says, sorry to be a bother. He also fucking said, do not look into this further. And he couldn't have been more clear. So like, I don't know. It's weird that they just are like, yeah, we can still do it. Right. Even though he explicitly asked them not to.
Of course they're going to do it though.
Sure. Okay.
That's why they're the heroes.
That's why they're the heroes. The Raven and the Wolf. All right. So now we cut to that scientist's house again. They want to investigate this. We're going to play the clip of this shootout in a minute. They enter. This is the house they were just at a minute ago. This time they decide to approach from the backyard. Where? How? There's a fence. It doesn't make any sense. Like they just start the shot with them walking. And it's like, did you both leap over a fence to get here and cut through someone else's property? Like the strangest setups in this show. It's so weird. All right. So the house is completely emptied out, and Amanda's like, told you, like, if they didn't find, like, they must have taken whatever they were looking for because they came here and cleared it out. I will also mention that this scientist had like photos on his fridge of like a wife and kids and shit. I'm like, where are all these other people? Like, they just like,
who would be like, hey, he wasn't suicidal.
Yeah, right. I guess he maybe he's divorced and she took the kids. I don't know, but for what?
That's why he killed himself. All right, the federal agents were right. I'm on this now.
Airtight plot. Okay. So they're looking for shit, and then Nick has this revelatory detective moment where he goes, hey man, he was a botanist. Do you think what they're looking for is out there or out there? And he points to this horrible looking shitty garden. He's like, those are some great looking tomato plants. They're they're all green and just like barely grown. And then there's one that's like withered and dying. And I guess the idea is that like it's withered and dying because it was disturbed. Maybe,
but Nick like parkours over the railing to be like, I'm on this.
Yes. Ridiculous. Yeah, there's just like 4 stairs. He's on a back porch and he's like, I gotta leap over this like an action star. All right, so he pulls up this tomato plant.
Talking through this has made me amend a prior statement, which is where I was like, why didn't Charlie's son destroy the seeds? It's because somebody else on the team had the seeds, not him.
Yes.
But that's what he's about to find. He's about to find seeds.
An Altoids box or a Sucrets tin full of seeds in a potted plant. bananas. So when they pull this out, there's a dude. It turns out it's the gardener. The two gardener people, I guess, were federal agents the whole time or whatever. Let's watch this. This is the fucking best. This is an insane action shootout. Like, it's just everything about this I love. It's so ridiculous. Here we go. Do. All right, here we go. Playing a clip. Obongas.
Obongo.
Is that guy like? Did he break into someone else's home? Oh my!
I guess so. Also,
and
what was that light? Why did someone shine a light on them?
Okay, all right. I'm gonna pause real quick. Okay, I think the light is supposed to be when he opens the window to take a shot. There's a glare from the light, and that catches their eye. I know it's dicey, but also like this guy's on the second floor. He's shooting with like a little hand, like he doesn't have a rifle. Like what? Like how inaccurate is this? Also we'll see this way the guy shoots again, and it's incredible.
And the way Amanda and Nick go for cover, Amanda, like they didn't want to shoot that again to be like, Amanda, like you got to move a little purpose. Someone's trying to shoot you. She like strolls to cover.
Well, she's immortal, baby. Just runs behind the tree.
As Nick does this little shimmy.
And he also, Nick puts his hands through the rungs of the fence. That seems like a way to like trap yourself and not move. Like,
yeah,
this is, Amanda's getting kicked by this lady in denim. This is incredible.
Yeah, this is all amazing.
All the slow-mo. I love that this guy's already downstairs.
Yeah, he moved with purpose.
Cool.
The fighting is so
kick.
slow.
A little bit,
like
yeah.
All this footage is like slowed down a little bit for some reason, and it just looks like shit.
Oh, I love this. The head tilting, like the Matrix.
The hair.
Look at the way this guy shoots. This guy, have you seen that? Like, it was kind of a viral clip of that dude who got like was like road raging. Have you seen this? There's this dude who is mad at this other car, and it's pretty scary. The guy has a gun in his glove compartment, and he pulls it out, and he just starts shooting at the other guy. But he like, I don't know if he's never shot this gun before, or he's just like a guy who really should own a gun for sure, shooting in a car. But he's like, like freaky. He looks like he's scared of his own gun, trying to shoot out a moving car. It's so ridiculous. This
moving car.
This federal agent kind of looks like that. Like he's like, like with the gun. Hysterical. So anyway, great shootout or something, I guess. And then they flee. There's sirens and they flee. And they check this guy's like wallet, and they realize he's a federal agent, and they killed him, and they're leaving the scene.
Which, side note, at some point later, don't they say like, it's all a fake, there'll be no record of those people, but he's carrying a badge. It's like, which one is it?
Right, yeah. Oh, because Amanda's like, he's covert ops, like whatever that means. Like, it's just nonsense.
That's a phrase that's in movies.
Oh my gosh. Oh, also, once again, I just want to point out, Nick should not own a gun. This guy is bananas with these guns.
Unstable.
He's residential neighborhoods. It's just, oh my gosh, killing federal agents, ridiculous. All right, so we're back at Amanda's apartment, and Nick has his shirt off, and Amanda's bandaging him up on his left arm. When did Nick get shot or anything? Like,
oh, you see him get shot in that clip we just saw.
When? I watched it again.
They shooting, and he kind of like leans back and goes, ugh.
It's not
very like, it's not very called out, but I do think we're supposed to at least think that he got tagged lightly.
Wow, because I didn't even notice that, and I was like, wow, they didn't even shoot him getting shot. Shoot him getting shot. Film him getting shot. You know what I mean? All right. So Amanda apparently knew Florence Nightingale.
There's a lot of just like name dropping in this.
Yeah, like, Mata Hari is mentioned. Like, Also, here's a little trivia about the Mata Hari. Her real last name was McLeod, a funny Highlander connection. And
that's funny. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and her head is fucking embalmed. So another weird immortal.
I'm sorry, what?
Her head apparently is embalmed in a jar, I think.
As one does.
Sure, right? Anyway, she was convicted of being a spy in World War One.
Right.
So anyway,
I didn't know that got your head embalmed.
Yeah. So they open this Altoids container, which Amanda even makes a comment. I can't tell. Like, there's so many things in the show that sometimes I'm not even sure if they're a joke. Like Amanda's like, "Oh, this thing's like really a pain to open," and I'm like, "It's an Altoids container wrapped in plastic wrap. Like, you just rip it open." Like, what? Like, I couldn't tell if she was joking or not. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Knives and scissors are real.
Sure. All right. So it's just full of fucking corn kernels or whatever. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
So who knows what's going on? I hate the next scene. So we get this
you're saying the villain guy's having a villain chat?
Yeah. The head fed is on a payphone. And then he comes out.
K-Fed. He used to date Britney Spears.
That's right. That's fine.
Right.
I've not thought about K-Fed in a long time. Wow.
Neither is anybody else.
Marriage, right? Wow,
yeah.
What a time. So him and the other guy, goon from the car and the ladder, like the Fed is like, tell me about these other people, right? And the guy starts telling him about Nick, right? And he's like an ex-cop, blah, blah, blah. And then he interrupts him and he's like, yeah, what about that woman, right? And this guy starts to say like, well, she goes by this name, that name, she's a jewel thief. He interrupts him again and says like, none of this explains why they're not dead yet. And I'm just like, again, what the fuck? You just fucking asked this question and now you're like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. Also, if there was any confusion, if anyone's implied to be the bad guy, it is now completely, right? Like resolved. Like this guy is said, why aren't they dead yet? Right? So we know. Yeah. Unbelievable. Why did this guy even ask these questions that he doesn't want to know the answers to? It's so stupid.
Yeah. Why did we see the scene? We know they want them dead.
Yeah, this scene doesn't belong in this episode. Just cut it out. Anyway, so now we're back at the old folks' home, and Amanda and Nick show up with their little tin of corn, right? And Charlie's like,
yes, they do.
It's like they did it. They actually did it. And again, at this point I was confused because I was like, how does he know they did it if none of them are supposed to know what they were working on? Like,
yes, and like somehow Charlie, who's been out of the game and is a retired old piece of crap, as he's about to say, like moments from now he will say that. It's like, but yet by sight you can identify what top secret project this is,
right? And also weird because at a point later in the episode, he reveals that he worked on this project in the early 70s for some reason.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like, I just don't get it. Like, it also paints Charlie in a pretty nefarious light. Like, I'm just like,
I think that's fair. True. You
were working on this too? Like, yikes, right? Like, oh my gosh. So there, he's like flabbergasted. He goes outside. We don't find out, I guess, what happened, what this is yet, right? I don't think, but now we get this, like,
no, I think
we go outside.
This is where we.
Okay, well, let's just talk about it. What the or is it a little later? Oh no, it's a bit later. Well, we get this flashback first.
Yes,
Amanda and Charlie go outside, and we flash back to Czechoslovakia or whatever, right? More they're dancing, and he's there to stop this war, I guess, or this invasion. But I guess someone's trying to stop him from stopping things, right?
I guess the way this is shot, it looks like so. Side note, I guess he's here doing some kind of counterintelligence because, like, there's been an uprising in the Czech, well, what is now the Czech Republic,
right,
against the Russians, and like there's this brief period of hope and peace. So I guess he's there to help keep that going and like monitor the situation. But somebody's gonna shoot, but it just looks like they're intentionally shooting Amanda. I don't know. Like
I think it's supposed to be because they're dancing that like they spin around and she gets hit or whatever, right?
Why doesn't the guy keep shooting? Why does he stop shooting?
Yeah, very good point. Very good point.
You accidentally shot this random person who I guess was not your target. Shoot
again, right?
Yeah. It's Charlie doesn't run. He doesn't.
No, he's just right there.
He just sits there and holds her body. So
yeah.
Anyway,
I just want to point this out again. So another video portion for everyone watching on YouTube. So the screenshot on the left, these were taken a bit hastily, but the one on the left is from season 6, Diplomatic Immunity, where that goofy guy climbs up on this shed's roof and snipers the dude. And here is that same footage from this episode. So they didn't even get like an actor to play like the sniper. And also what's interesting is they play this footage backwards in this episode. In the Raven episode, they show it's so goofy looking. Like when you kind of like haven't like watch it with an eye for what's happening. Like this dude, they play the footage backwards to show him escaping off the roof. But it looks clunky because he's really climbing onto the roof in Diplomatic Immunity. Anyway, that's nuts. Another just again symptom of like the kind of just cheap budget this show has. And I mean, you give them credit for I guess what they could do with it, but it does suffer a bit. I think a bit.
Yeah, a bit. Yes,
it's just suffering from.
You don't say.
Okay. So she wakes up in this flashback. This is I guess how he finds out she's immortal. She kisses him, and that's like it, right? And it's just you know.
And I guess somewhere in these flashbacks, they do have this discussion about like Amanda's really cynical and doesn't think that like, I don't know, like the curve of history bends towards justice or something like that.
Sure.
It's just like the powerful will do what they're going to do and nothing else really matters. And like Charlie is actually the very optimistic one who's like, you know.
And Amanda
like,
seems to say also, Amanda also seems to like say a few times, like no one will remember this. Like people, these things seem important now, but like they're not actually important. Like no one remembers this event, right? Like
which
so that's kind of
weirdly, which is shockingly true. I bet if you ask the question, how many people know about this event, it will be
so that's interesting.
Small.
Again, I like her sitting with Charlie. Excuse me. She even gives like there's like a kiss in the transition here. Like these scenes feel a bit warm. Like I don't know, Amanda. These are different sort of conversations than Duncan has, I think, in Highlander. And this is stuff that I'm like, Amanda feels very warm and caring. And the fact that she had a relationship with this person of some sort, like, I just want more of that. Like, that's a way for the show to be different and interesting. So
I agree with that.
Okay. So now we got back inside this old folks home and we get the full scoop on what this shit is, right? So this is some hybrid wheat laced, the quote is a drug-resistant wheat hybrid laced with estrogen. What?
Yeah, like they're somehow going to use this. They use the phrase to sterilize certain populations.
And what's the reason for it? It's not just that they're enemy. Like it's not like these are our adversaries, so we will exterminate our enemy with like a genocide, which is bananas. But he says, you know how much foreign aid we give other countries? And it's like, what? And he's like, instead of feeding people, maybe we could just let them starve to death and we won't have to deal with them anymore. And it's like, this is nuts. We're supposed to like this guy, Charlie. No, we don't. He's a fucking psycho.
Yeah, horrifying. Also, he says that like it's a rhetorical question, which I guess you couldn't Google back then, but you can Google it now. Answer. How much do you spend on foreign aid? In 2019, about $40 billion. And don't get me wrong, cosmically, $40 billion is a lot of money. Not in the context of this though, because that is less than 1% of the federal budget.
Hey, look at that, right?
Less than 1%. The like almost everything, like 75% of the federal budget is military spending, Social Security.
Are you saying we need to cut NASA, Kyle? Is that what you're saying? To clean out out that box, that drawer, right? That's what the spending is, right?
Yeah. So it's just like baffling. It's like, do you know how much we spend on this? It's like, yeah, about as much as we spend on like a couple of fucking planes. So like,
right.
It just makes me so mad.
Yep. Yeah, and then also this is it's like the scope of the show is like completely improper. Like I love the aspect of the show that is Amanda and Lucy, Amanda and Charlie, like a small thing about two interpersonal like relationships, right? Even fucking Amanda says that to Nick when they're walking through the garden, like all that matters is our connections to other people, she says, right? But apparently, but this show is about like international espionage, genocide, like government sanctioned genocide. Like, what the fuck are we talking? Like, this shit does not belong in this show. I think, like, it's just ridiculous plots. Like, it's I don't know. It muddies the water about like what this is all about, and it's so goofy. All right, so the feds show up for some, I guess, because I don't know. I guess they know those two agents are dead, and they know that they're gonna go after. I don't fucking know.
They want to kill Amanda and Nick for sure. So
I'm gonna play you another clip, Kyle, because I
is it the Great Hearse Escape?
No, although I do love that. I took some clips, like these are like what I'm calling nonsense lines. Like I can't figure this shit out. So they go to make this escape. Tell me what you think of this. Like it's just puzzling script writing here.
Front and the back will be sealed.
Better find another way out.
She says the front and back will be sealed to start this. These people have just pulled up, right? So like, I don't know what she means by sealed, right? Like,
well, I think that she means there'll be someone watching those entrances.
Well, that's not what
exits.
she fucking said. She should say that. Like, this is like when she said, do you want to go for a walk? And then they go for lunch in the next scene. It's like, just say they're going to cover those entrances. Like, it's so weird. Like sealed implies all sorts of other stuff, right? Like was this in lockdown? The fucking old folks home? Like, no. But that's not the line I was really talking about. I'm so sorry. We're in the weeds on this, everybody. Here we go.
Come on, Charlie.
Hell, don't get excited. Winnie Howell died this morning. They always shut the doors. They don't want anybody to see the body.
Come on.
Huh? Talk to me about this. Winnie Howell just died this morning. Don't get excited. Winnie Howell just died this morning. They shut the doors because they don't want anyone to see the body. I think in the script, this implied a different action beat or something. Because they're not encountering that.
I think in this context, that door that's behind them is supposed to be like lead to where the body is. So I think he's supposed to be saying, but it doesn't really make any sense that like this isn't being shut down because of the police. It's being shut down because this guy died. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Like this needs to be a different sort of beat. Like I don't know. Like it's filmed. The filming is incongruous with the script. I think like this implies that something should be getting closed or they should be going in a particular direction and being blocked.
Yes.
And like none of that stuff is happening. It's just this random line. Like they're like, don't be surprised that the doors are locked. And it's like, huh, but the doors aren't locked or whatever. Like that door's fucking open right now. Like it does. And there's like an auditorium in there. Who knows? Whatever. But really strange. I don't know. I don't know. I just had to point that out just because like it's another example of just like odd scripting or like it's like, do they film these episodes in like 24 hours? Like the turnaround must be so quick to get this stuff done.
Yeah.
Okay.
It probably makes the 6-day shooting schedule look like a dream.
Fucking vacation, right? Yeah. All right, Kyle. So tell us about this escape. We love it, right?
So they essentially, using the line that was just delivered, they decide that they are going to pretend to be doctors or something and escort. But I guess they're really like the Undertaker or the Mortician or something, because there's a hearse outside and they like steal the hearse by pretending Charlie is the one who died.
Right.
And then there's a hearse chase and I'm like, okay, this is dumb and fun. All right. Why not?
I guess so. Okay. So there's all this like karate stuff going on. Like Amanda and Nick are now just fighting. Like,
yes.
Like federal agents. Even Charlie gets involved and like pushes some dude down a hill, right? And then
Nice
hops
shove.
into the back of the hearse, right? So they escape. As you said, Kyle, there's this chase. I don't know if anyone wants to
quickly learned
on.
that I don't know how to spell the word hearse because I spelled it wrong no less than 3 different times, 3 different ways.
Oh, interesting. What were you spelling it like? William Randolph?
HURSE.
Oh no, that's not gonna do it, huh?
That's
not gonna do it. Okay, I'm gonna play this clip real quick just because I can't help it. If anyone's seen the movie Samurai Cop, this music reminds me a lot of that. Also, Kyle, you thought this was the most fun part of the episode. I hate all of this. Well,
it's
the way this resolves doesn't make any sense to me. All right, here, let's watch this. Look at this guy. They're just shooting. Everybody's just shooting everywhere. Nobody should have guns in this show. So here's our chase. Samurai Cop music for sure.
I wish I knew where we were going.
Come on, let's get to the chase here.
Place is staked out. You can bet on that. The truth is, you can't hide from these guys.
You can't hide from these guys.
There you go. They're on us already.
This is it. All right. Okay, so we're gonna stop right there, just because like Nick is like wildly driving around, right?
Just arrested.
What the fuck happened? Like they had 2 cars on them. Nick spins around, and now they're just
separate cop catches them,
and then another cop catches them for speeding or reckless. I don't understand where the feds are. Like, we're in a whole different location now. Like, it's bananas. Like, this is again just them. Like, the beats must be satisfied in the episode, right? Like, and it doesn't matter how we get there or why we do it. Like, they get arrested. Done.
This scene needed to be longer to establish the chase, that they didn't think they were going to succeed in the chase, and that their solution to this was to intentionally get pulled over, not by the federal agents, but by the cops.
But wouldn't the federal agents just hop out and be like, we're federal agents, we're after this person, and then the cops would go, oh, okay, right? Like, well,
I think we're supposed to think that this is like covert enough that they can't do that.
Interesting.
But that's like, you know what I mean? Like, these guys are like, these federal agents, quote unquote, whatever they are, like, they are criminals. Like, they are killing people. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know.
Not to throw a wrench in your work. I see what you're saying, Kyle. You're like, it's so
they're
covert.
not my works. This is
you're piecing this together. Like, well, they don't want to be caught either because, like, it's so covert. But, like, when there was that murder at the house with the garden and all that shit, like, this federal dude went on TV. The reporter asked him questions, and he's like, oh, but it's like, this isn't that covert, apparently, right? Like, these murders are reported publicly. Like, that's another thing. It's like, it's just so strange, so strange. Also, here's a question: why did the news? This is a major metropolitan news station, it would seem, right? Like, they're at the end of the episode. Spoiler: like 7:00 news comes on, lead story with this stuff. They show up at someone's house that just shot themselves. I mean,
yes,
I don't know if that's like a real slow news day, and it's not that like, but I don't know, not to be callous about it, but like, these things happen pretty frequently, and the news doesn't like, multiple news vans are there, like, huh, what's happening, right? Like, that doesn't really make sense either. Okay, so they get arrested. Now we're in the jail, right? And so Nick has some envelope. This
damn straight.
All right, tell us how this goes, I guess, right? Like, he wants a phone call, right?
Yes, which is what they're arguing about for some reason. They use that one phone call, though. They want to call the reporter to, I guess, get like dirt and like convey this story to them. Meanwhile, fucking Charlie is just talking about like, oh, I bet you played sports in high school. Did you letter and everything? And I was like, fuck you, man. You're like 80 and you're talking about high school sports.
Well, I think they were also trying to like, there's maybe too much going on in this episode too. Like, I think they're trying to mirror Charlie and Nick, right? That like, I was a lot like you, right? Like,
there seems nothing like each other.
Yeah, right. Like, it's really strange, like, why this stuff is present. I don't understand it.
Because we're supposed to think that, like, I think especially once this estrogen shit comes out, like, we're supposed to think Charlie's like was a dubious guy. Like, even his speech that he gives acknowledges that. It was that, like, you know, we weren't thinking of people as people. Like,
right.
You'd always, whatever sacrifice you had to make, you would always make it. It never mattered. And that is not Nick. Like, nothing about that is like Nick, who constantly seems to be ready to like light the world on fire to like catch the bad guy.
Yeah, right.
You know.
Yeah, that's very true, right?
He doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, and we don't have any dialogue
he blew
from
up his
Charlie.
career rather than do something that like he views as morally distasteful.
Sure, yeah, that's a good point. And there's no dialogue from Charlie to indicate that he necessarily regrets these sort of behaviors, right? He just says like times were different, but he doesn't say like we shouldn't have been doing that, or I'm not the person. I don't know. It's really strange. So the thing I don't get is Nick also has an envelope. He leaves an envelope. We'll find out for this reporter at the front desk. I'm like, hey, Kyle, you're a lawyer. Can you fucking do that? That seems like that's evidence that the cops would have seized, right? Like they stole a hearse, right? Like they like lobby that against them, like you theft of a hearse, right? Like that's no good. Why wouldn't they have all this shit? And you don't just get to call somebody and be like, take this mysterious envelope. Maybe it's full of drugs or a fucking biological weapon. I don't like bananas. Well, it doesn't make any sense.
As an aside, like obviously there's a warrant requirement for most things. There is not a warrant requirement for if you are arrested. They obviously get to like search and inventory your property. Like you don't need a warrant to do that. So if you've got like an envelope in it, like on you, and you've got like shit on you and you get arrested, like generally speaking, the cops will be able to open it and like look through it.
Right.
There have been some like corner, like the envelope one, if it's truly sealed, might be an interesting corner case. But like,
because there's no suspicion to open it, right?
Potentially. It's like sometimes you'll get corner cases where it's like, do you need a warrant to like open the contents of what this thing is? But like, I don't know, generally speaking, you can't be like assured that they're certainly not gonna keep it for you and give it to someone else.
Right.
It's like they're just gonna take it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And nobody even asked questions like, wait, you want to give something to somebody else? Well, what is it? Right. Like,
yeah,
it's so wacky. Okay. So anyway, they end up getting like, it all ends up being kind of, well, I thought moot, because they're like, oh, well, you're out now, right? And I guess the feds bust them out, like, like post their bail, or I have no idea how these charges get dropped and in what way they get out of jail. But we assume the feds have done it.
Yeah, I do think we're supposed to think what you just said.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
they want them out so they can take them out.
So they can take them out, and so that they can get, I guess, these seeds, right? Or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they're like, we're going to have an adult conversation, right? And so the Fed threatens Nick with a drive-by shooting. Like, he's like, all this gang activity. What? Oh, boy. Anyway, so they reveal that like they don't have the seeds or whatever. And so they're like, how about this? I have something to show you. And so we go from downtown police station to Amanda's apartment. We have to go all the way back, right? They walk upstairs. Like, this
to
is
find that fucking TV,
right? Like, incredible too. Like, Nick must have known, I guess, like, oh, well, it's going to take us about 45 minutes to get home. It's traffic, right? With traffic and everything, like, we'll make the 7 o'clock news, right? They go into fucking Amanda's place. This is the strangest staging here. I will play this because I get so frustrated. I'm so sorry, everybody. Check this shit out, yo. Look at this. All right, so we're gonna go. Oh, no one can see them scrolling through this episode. I'm like, here we go. All right, I'm gonna start sharing. But like, just this, it's like them entering that dude's yard from the backyard. Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. But like, they don't have time to set up these shots, so they just fucking go with it. And like, you're just supposed to be like, oh, okay, right? Okay, so here we are at Amanda's apartment, right? Play.
What time you got, Foster?
Okay. First off, the door is open. You can see it's fucking cracked. That's one thing. No one closes the fucking door behind them. We assume they just walked in the door, right? Because like the dialogue here is, what does he say? Like, I got something to show you, right? Like,
2 minutes in my hand or you're dead.
What time you got, Foster?
7 o'clock.
There's that fucking TV, right? So they are just walking in.
Perfect.
What are you
But apparently fucking Charlie's here. This fucking goon's here. They're already all there. He's sitting down. Coffee's made. There's pastries. Like, what the hell is happening?
Pastries.
Like,
the presents. I had to write down the
breakfast?
presents of the pastries. No, it's 7 o'clock.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, it's 7 o'clock at night. Yeah, it's what? Like, it's so silly to have it staged like this. And I don't know if they thought that like it's just too many people in one shot, getting them like walking through this place. I don't know why they don't just cut to here, like all them sitting down together. But it's strange the way they stage this entrance, that like some people are walking in, other people are all already there. And it's especially like the one who's going to be the slowest. Like, I don't know if they thought that Charlie walking through the scene is going to take too long. So put him in the chair already and the audience won't notice. Well, guess what? This podcast noticed. I don't know.
Quack, quack.
That's right. Quack, quack. Fuck. I'm a useless piece of crap. All right. So I guess, should we play this clip too? I mean, I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah, if you love it, then play it.
I mean, I love all this. It's so goofy. Okay, here we go. We're gonna play this clip. This is the last clip I think we're gonna play in the episode. So, everybody,
buckle up. Enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, enjoy this tidbit of.
You're dead.
Oh, look, I already had this part saved. Here we go. All right, well, moving ahead. Here we go. All right.
She she summons over this other guy.
Yeah, who's like looking around. Also, Amanda, you are a criminal, and she's like, Amanda is constantly letting police officers into her home. Don't even let them look inside your home, man. Like, just no.
Yeah.
What do you?
No.
Special bulletin.
Until this reporter was supplied with the evidence herself. Signed affidavits testifying to a conspiracy of incredible proportions, a plot to sterilize millions by lacing grain with the hormone estrogen. Implicated directly are the National Security Council and the Department of Defense. The director of the CIA declined to comment.
We'll have more details later in the broadcast. Now back to Andrews Field.
Okay, let's talk about
So-
what?
All right, all I'm saying is, so the only evidence she has, and she runs this story in one day, she's the least responsible journalist on the planet. Like, she got some affidavits for people. Who gives a shit? An affidavit is like a document that's like ostensibly said under oath, but like, who gives a shit?
And how did she
Like, you
get
don't
them?
know
Like,
these
what
people.
under oath when? This was
Yeah, like, I
hours
don't
ago.
know. Yeah, like, I guess it depends on what jurisdiction you're in, because in Pennsylvania it counts as an affidavit even if you don't like administer a formal oath, as long as you put the right words in. But
And
who
whose
gives a shit?
affidavit? Whose affidavit is this?
Assumably Nick, Charlie, and Amanda's, because they're the only ones who are fucking alive. But like,
But they weren't under oath.
Yeah,
when
and
did they write any of this stuff down?
like that's the thing. When did they write any of it down? I assume that's what's in the envelope. But it's like, when did you have the materials and the time to do this?
You'd have to
And
test
second
these
off, like,
seeds, right?
yeah, it's like, also, like, you didn't want to do your own investigation before accusing the U.S. government of genocide. Like,
Yes.
what?
And she says the
What?
National Security Council's involved, the Department of what was it? Department of, what was it?
Defense?
Was it?
The CIA director, Homeland Security would not have existed. at this
right?
point.
Yeah. Who knows? And then they're
Uh,
like, and the CIA, director of the CIA, like, what?
It
What?
makes no sense.
Ugh,
None of it makes any
vomit.
sense.
I want to vomit.
So it's just like, why is anything happening here?
Yeah. So it's, again, kind of like a Neil Breen movie where they're just like, the federal government did all these bad things, but it's all just very nebulous, right? Like, who's involved, and it's like, it doesn't really make sense. But it's like bad, corrupt, right? So they're like,
Yeah.
tell it to the grand jury, and that's the end of the scene. So then we cut to the grand jury, right? And Amanda and Nick are just like doing the old walk and talk, and Nick says it's been 10 straight days of testimony, right? Testimony.
Testimony, correct.
Testimony. That was
And-
a name of the Highlander episode, right?
Yeah, I thought that's what we were riffing on.
Yeah, it is. Okay. I couldn't remember why we have why the word testimony is in our vocab. So sorry.
In the lexicon.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert, I guess they don't indict this guy.
How? Like, they don't
Well,
actually
who knows
say
what
how.
investigate. Well, who knows what investigation they have? Like, the better question is, what evidence do they have?
Yeah,
like,
they have no evidence.
we don't know-
Like, the reporter
like-
has really none. Like, to
No,
connect
yeah.
to this particular guy.
So we don't know who did this investigation and what any of it reveals. But
Mhm.
obviously, we know as the audience that this is a miscarriage of justice.
Right. All right. So
So
the Fed guy comes
right.
out. I don't remember this guy's name. I just keep on the Fed. It doesn't matter. He comes out, gives a speech to the reporter, who gives him like some like little attitude, like on camera, like, really, like, this is about truth and justice or whatever, right? And I guess like Amanda's like, oh, it's just all national security, right? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I mean,
course not.
also, this was on the news. Like, national security a salad. Like, aren't people upset that the government was going to genocide some people? Like, don't fucking people care? Like, this is bananas. Like, regardless of
Apparently they
any
don't.
sort of legal outcome of this, like, shit's going down, right? Like, this is bananas. Whatever. All right. So he's getting off. They're like, we got to find Charlie. He seemed pretty upset. Just like the other scene, like, Charlie doesn't need this cane. It's like all a ruse or something, because somehow he's able to like leave. I guess he goes to get his gun from his car or whatever.
To
Like,
get his gun, yeah.
yeah, where did did he take his, how did he come? Does he drive himself? Did he come with Amanda? Does he unlock Amanda's car to get his gun? He couldn't have brought that gun into this. Well, actually, who knows? Pre-September 11th, I don't know what kind of security points are at a courthouse, but like, what, did he bring the gun into the courthouse? I don't know, but Charlie's ahead of the pack somehow. And
Yeah,
so
and he's
he
got the
shoots
gun.
He
And also,
shoots
like,
the Fed, right?
Grand jury proceedings are generally sealed, so he probably wouldn't have been allowed to be wherever this was happening.
Interesting.
You know,
question. Do you think
like-
Amanda and Nick testified?
Well, that's the thing. That's the way he could have been there, is if he was called to testify.
That would make
Uh,
sense. Do we
which
think Amanda's
seemingly-
testifying? Do you think Amanda, who has multiple aliases, is a confirmed, like, the federal government was able to confirm she's a jewel thief? Nick knows she's a jewel thief. And they put her on this, like, she's like, yeah, I'll go on the stand in front of the, like, what? No way. No way.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and that does seem to be what we're asked to accept.
I don't know, who knows, but maybe they just watched from afar. It's so weird. So that's it. So I guess we have justice or something.
And
It also
and
this
Charlotte
like
murders this guy.
yeah,
so
this feels
fine.
almost like diplomatic immunity, like that sort of plot where it's like
It's the
real
same.
justice. Yeah, exactly. It's the same sort of plot, right? But we do have a nice little flashback here. We get a final flashback to Czechoslovakia, and I think this is sweet. They replace young Charlie with old Charlie, and they dance and have like a little moment, right? And a kiss or something, right? I think this is very sweet. It's like symbolic, right? Of like whatever the relationship is, or I don't know. I think stuff like that is great. More of that, less of these goofy fucking plots that don't make any sense.
0 sense.
So then we cut back to Amanda's apartment. At this point, I was like, oh my God, there's still more to the episode. Like, I actually thought the episode might have ended when they watched TV and they're like, we got you. It's like, okay, cool. That's the end of the episode. Like, there's all these endings, right? Like, okay. So back in Amanda's place, Nick and Amanda are in front of a fire, having a drink, still wearing the same clothes from court. And she's like, did you see the newspaper headline? And I'm like, you're wearing the same clothes, like afternoon edition, or I guess, right? Like you went and got it.
Sure, why not?
And also, why did you need to read the article? You were there. Whatever. It doesn't fucking make any sense. But they're like, did you see this headline? Senior citizen goes on shooting rampage. Like, and I'm just like, that's
one guy.
It's one guy, and it's like it's again too over the top. Like this episode seems to hinge on, and I don't know if it's who came up with this plot, if it's the writers or whatever, but like this does feel like in that Neil Breen sort of way, where it's like, isn't the government corrupt? Make a whole episode about that. Isn't it weird how the media spin things for whatever reason? That's in it too, right? But like there's no actual, like, it seems to just be making like grand statements that are like kind of false because they're so grand, right? Like, I'm just like,
also,
what?
The media
like,
making
what is this
false
headline? What kind of headline is that? Like, what fucking blog is this? Not a newspaper, right? Like the fucking Epoch Times or something. Like this sort of this is nonsense.
Yeah, which as part of that, it's like the entire reason the government is in trouble is because a journalist did the same thing. Right?
I guess so. All right.
Anyway.
So Amanda says no one in 100 years will remember this. And then, I love this too, because I fucking these scripts, man. Oh, so then Amanda, Amanda says the truth is in that 100 years, no one will remember this. And then Nick asks her, how does she hold on to the ones she loves? And she says the great ones she never forgets. And I'm like, what? You didn't answer the question. Like, she doesn't even like, she basically is asked, how do you remember those you love? And she says, I remember the ones I love. Like, what? Like, he asked you,
what
how
a
do you?
truism.
Yeah, like it's just it's so poor. Like it's like we need to have a heartfelt moment at the end of this episode where we bring back some thematic element, and they choose this, which is, I guess, fine, but like it doesn't actually say anything about it. Like this doesn't like enrich the viewer's life either. Like much like Highlander does. Like again, I can't give that show enough praise because it seems to like succeed where this show fails. Like you learn something through Duncan's like adventures, right? Like you get a new perspective on life. Like, hey, like I've always thought about, I don't know, justice in this particular way, but now I see it in this bigger grand scheme, and it's maybe giving me a new lens to look at it, or just like whatever. Like there's something tangible you can take from Highlander, I think, and be like, could I apply that to my life, or is this just impactful? And like these sentiments are just nonsense. Like it's just like, do you love people? Yes, I do. And it's like, but how? Like give us this immortal insight. Give us like some, like Amanda should be a bit of a wise sage here. Like she's lived through all this shit, and she should have some grip on it to be, I don't know, she doesn't share that with the audience, and that's what I want. Like I want the audience to be enriched by this fantastic person, right? Like fuck, man. Anyway, and that's the end of this stupid episode. That's it.
We made it.
My very first question, Kyle, because you mentioned the title right away. It says, what do you think of this title? Is this a goddamn reference to farming? Like,
yes.
Like I can't believe how literal it was. Like you reap what you sow, right? Like, and then they're like, yeah, this is going to be about planting crops. That's what this episode's about. All right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. It's great.
Yeah. And also I was curious, who reaps what they sow? Is it Charlie? Is it because
unclear?
I wonder that too, because I'm not sure that the episode wants us to have, I don't know if this show wants us to think as poorly of Charlie as you and I are.
Yes. Well, I think you're correct about that, actually. I think
You know,
that's 100% right.
Like, I think they put in those throwaway lines about like, oh, I was working on this project, just so he knows about it. But like, we're realizing the ironic, like ramifications of that, which means that he was involved in some really bad stuff. And we're like, that's not good, right?
Yeah, including this estrogen project. Like,
yeah,
that's bad. Like, that
boy.
is about as bad as it could possibly be.
Yep. So I have a couple other notes before we close out, Kyle. So here's a weird question / Keith theory, right? And again, I have not seen the rest of the show.
It's been a while since there's been a Keith theory.
Yeah. So I'm very curious, and I've still not watched that documentary. We're holding off because I think it's a little bit more fun now not watching it. But I was curious, like we see older characters in the show more than we have all over the place, right? Like we've got Lucy, we got this guy Charlie, we have that other immortal, who was the guy, the silversmith?
Right. Yes.
Like he's older, I think. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's not some like motorcycle leather jacket clad like young immortal punk, right? Like a Highlander the series might have, right? Like there's an older cast of characters, it seems. And I'm very curious, again, in the production of this show, like when they started Highlander the series, they were like, this is a show for 13-year-old boys because they're gonna like kicking ass and swords and shit. But then quickly realized there was a romance angle to this, and like older women were really interested in this, and like it had a different sort of audience appeal, or a much more varied audience appeal. And I'm very curious if they were like, hey, our audience at this point is like 50 plus. Or maybe that's the audience too of like TBS or USA. Like who's watching La Femme Nikita? Like are 13-year-old boys watching? I have no idea. I'm just curious if we're seeing more older stories because they like are trying to make this appeal to an older demographic. I'm not sure. Weird Key theory.
It's an interesting question, especially just because it's undeniable that there are a lot of older characters. So it seems like there's maybe something, who knows,
but they're also not really dealing with the themes of that stuff too much. And the other thing I was going to mention was like Nick and Amanda don't solve anything in this. Like Charlie tells them about the seeds. Like they never uncover what the seeds are. They just find a box of trash, right? Basically.
Right. And Charlie just tells them.
Right. And also like the Fed outs himself. Like we never like uncover, like how is the Fed, like we never figure out how they accidentally murder people, right? Like how are they tricking the system, or, you know, whatever it is, like who's involved, like it's just doled out to us. And it's like, that's not exciting either. Like it's not exciting storytelling or whatever, right?
It's not, unfortunately.
No. Yikes. Okay. Well, Kyle,
Zeist.
How many estrogen-laced wheat berries would you give this episode?
I'm giving this 1.5 wheat berries, baby.
1.5. Oh, Kyle, do you have any final thoughts here? Give them now with your score. You know.
Yeah, my final thoughts on this are just that it needed to be a character story, and instead it's just another clunky mystery. Like everything has this season 1 Highlander kind of component to it in a way that makes clear that like this is the stories that they wanted to tell. Like they wanted to be telling these like modern day mysteries, and I don't understand why, but like that's where they're putting their effort for some reason, and it's just a letdown. It's all cops all the time, all mysteries all the time, and it's just like it's not even good. Like they just need to like have a more character driven story, and like preferably more flashbacks. But like, you know, some of these relationships could work if they just gave them the time.
Yeah, I think what you say about character driven stories is correct. Like I'd still also hear second key theory. I think I've maybe mentioned this before, is I'm very curious about how many of these scripts were ever written for this show. And if some of these are old ideas, story like from other stuff, and they just like grafted on to this Highlander name, right? Like, because like there seems to be a version of this that works better, right? Like where her immortality comes into play, his detective skills, like, but it seems like they're just missing that. And I wonder if that's because the scripts never called for that in the first place. And they're just trying to like, you know, drop in some sentences and lines here that like kind of make this more Highlandery, but it really isn't at its core. If you wrote this from start to finish, you know, maybe it would be more about Amanda. I don't know. This did seem closer to a Highlander episode, at least with her and Charlie. So that's good.
That's true.
And her lamenting like that melancholy about death. I don't know. Or, you know, seeing your friends die, not having kids, right?
That's something. That's a thing. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
That's closer to the sort of stories that this show usually tells, right?
Yes.
Or that work in this mythology, right? That excel in this mythology.
That's fair. So how many useless pieces of crap would you give this episode?
Oh my God. I think I'll give it 1.52. I don't think I've given anything a 2 yet, or have I? But that 2.
I don't think you have. I've crossed the 2 barrier, I think.
Right? When we get a 2 episode, it'll be markedly different. I think it'll be really good.
You'll knock your socks off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I won't just be like, why is anyone fucking doing what they're doing in this show? I can't even get past that. Like every scene, I'm like, why? And I know we look at this maybe a bit too detailed and a bit ironically, but still, it's whatever. Do you have cowboy hats behind you? What's happening back there?
There is a hat, a hat behind me. These are left over from Rachel's bachelorette party. My wife, her bachelorette party. Everyone got these hats.
Oh, okay.
Left over.
Well,
so they're sitting behind me presently.
Maybe next week you wear one of those hats.
Yeah. You heard it.
Stay tuned, right? Well, thanks everybody for
you don't want to miss that.
listening this week. Sorry, we had to take a few weeks off there, but we'll be back again with a new episode. You can subscribe to us on wherever you find podcasts. I suppose you're listening to this already, so you're probably subscribed in some way. We haven't talked about YouTube too much, but these shows are also on YouTube, so you can see the clips and see our ugly piece of crap faces. The next episode we're going to be covering is episode 6. Birthright, another maybe serious sounding title. I'm fascinated to see what it's all about. So who knows? There's I don't think we'll know even after we see it. Very good.
If I had to venture a guess.
Well, thanks again for joining us. We've been your Rewatchers. I'm Keith.
This is Kyle.
Bye.
Bye.